What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down some of the best route running I have ever seen from an individual player. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you are a wide receiver or a quarterback and would like to train with myself and my staff of coaches this offseason, we are going to be traveling out to 14 more states across the country for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. Next up on our camp tour, we'll be coming out to Orlando, Florida. That camp is completely sold out. But then we'll be coming out to Phoenix, Charlotte, Dallas, the DMV, St. Louis, Honolulu, Boston, Cleveland, Austin, Seattle, Newark, Denver, and Los Angeles, California. So if you guys want to get some work in with us, check out that very first link in the description below where you can get some more info and how you can sign up. Let's get started with this video. So now this receiver that we are going to be looking at today, his name is Booker Bush, and his videos kept honestly popping up on my TikTok page, and just the guy runs crazy routes. He runs insane routes, and we're going to break down some of them today and how you can add some of this stuff to your game to be a better wide receiver. So he is going to be running a dig route versus inside shade off man coverage. So now, number one, this is a very awkward situation. DB's lined up inside shade. What is he trying to protect? He's trying to protect the inside. He wants to prevent us from running a post, running a dig, running a curl. He wants to force everything outside because the sideline in this case is his help. So if I have to run a dig, this is a great way to do it. So let's play this thing full speed. So he sells like he's just running a post, and then he goes right into a crossover move. This is almost like, I would say this is probably more so like a post dig. Everybody loves running this post dig because it can be very, very fluid, but also you can sell this type of move. So again, I love how he didn't stem him to the inside. The mistake that a lot of guys will make when they have inside shade off man and they have to run a dig is they think that they have to automatically break in front of the DB. That's not realistic when you have inside shade off man with a disciplined guy. Because if you come off the ball and you stem him inside, that essentially means like angling the stem portion of your route at the midline of the DB or inside shoulder and hip. What is this DB going to probably do? He's probably going to weave to the inside because that's his responsibility to protect the inside. So we can pretty much guarantee he's not going to give that up. If I had to run a route like a fade, like an out route, like a corner route, I might want to do that. I might want to attack his leverage because that moves him and that creates more space to the outside for me. But if I got to run this inside route, I got to attack his outside shoulder and his outside hip. My goal is to make him think fade and make him flip his hip. So Booker does a great job of that. He's keeping good speed. He's maintaining his stride. He's keeping a good pad level. All three of those things make that DB think fade. And now puts the brakes on. He takes one step. He takes 3 steps to the inside and throws a crossover. It's almost like the same type of break you would do on like a post corner. That's what I would think he's trying to sell here, right? It's a post dig, but that's kind of what I would think he would be trying to sell. You break off of the post, you go 1, 2, 3, jab back on the 4th step. So he goes here, break, 1, 2, and then he goes 3, 4. Selling like he is running to the outside, still threatening the outside shoulder and the outside hip so he could slip back underneath and run this dig. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, is that move really necessary to get open? And it's not. It's not something that you have to do to be able to get open on a route. It's just a more creative way to do it. Wide receivers sometimes get so caught up in doing the same thing over and over and over again. There's no creativity to their game. And a disciplined DB, a smart DB, will be able to figure you out like that. So you have to make sure you bring some creativity to the table and you know how to run your routes efficiently, but also with a creative like kind of spice to it. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job attacking that outside shoulder here from Bush and getting some space. So now, this is a great example here of how you guys can use something called a hesitation hop release. Now, they cut off the full route of this clip, but you could honestly use this type of release personally on a fade route. I like it on a curl. I like it on a comeback. I like it on a dig. I pretty much like it on just about anything. Now, the tempo of this release can vary, so I would probably recommend it the most often used on a fade if you're going to slow down the tempo like he does. So I'm going to play it full speed. So we like this release against an inside shade kind of press or catch technique coverage DB. So he comes off the ball, attacks him, gives him a cross inside, and then is able to get that outside release. So let's break down the steps of this. When a DB's lined up inside shade, remember the last example we talked about, that DB was off man inside shade, right? So if he's off man inside shade, what was he trying to prevent us from running? The post, the dig, the curl, trying to take away the inside. Now, just because he's probably 5 to 7 yards closer, right up on the line and press, that doesn't mean anything about his leverage responsibilities change. That doesn't mean that he's now trying to take away the outside or trying to take away just the fade. Like, he's still trying to protect the inside. He is still lined up inside shade. He's trying to force us to the outside. So if I have to run an outside route, like let's call it a fade or let's call it a comeback, I don't want to just take off and go run because that's exactly what the DB wants. He's going to get hands on me. He's going to force me to that sideline and I'm not going to have any space, especially if it's like a fade ball from the QB. He needs some space to throw me open. So I need to attack him inside. I need to threaten him where he doesn't want to go. So this hesitation hop release is a great way to do that. So you see the first part of this release is going to be with the back foot. You take this like punch step. So when you punch with the back foot like this, you push off of this foot. So you take that punch step, you push, and you reach with your front foot. So now when you reach, you squared him up. You're attacking that midline or that inside shoulder and inside hip. Remember, we talked about that with the off-man coverage. Like if you were to run an out route, a fade, a corner, you would want to threaten his inside shoulder and hip because that's what's going to get him to move. So same idea now. That's what's going to get him to move off the line. So we punch with the back foot, and we reach with the front foot. Now, the steps in between have to get inside of your frame. This is one of my favorite releases to work on. I call these steps gather steps. So you punch, you reach, you take some gather steps to get your feet inside of your frame. Because when your feet are inside of your frame, that allows you to throw a very, very explosive crossover step and threaten to the inside. Your hips and your shoulders, you could step outside of his frame and actually really threaten his leverage, which will get him to do what? It'll get him to move. The mistake that a lot of guys will make on this type of hesitation hop release, and Bush does not do this, they will punch with the back foot, they'll reach, but their base stays super wide. So think about it, right? If your base is super wide, are you going to be able to step far? No, you're probably going to be able to just step like maybe like half an inch, right? Because that's as far as your legs will allow yourself to step. But if you do that punch, you do that reach, and you take those gather steps inside your frame now, you're in a more balanced position, I feel, and you're going to be able to push and throw your hip to the outside. Actually step outside the frame. Sell with your upper body because your feet are inside of your frame. But you start out super wide, you're not going to be able to do that. Your legs are going to be stiff, your hips are going to be stiff, and you're not going to be able to sell the movement. The whole purpose of us to do that is to threaten his leverage. Fellas, the way I like to break things down is we talk about the concept, we talk about why a certain thing works, and then we talk about the mechanics of it. Because if you don't know the reason why, there's no point in even knowing the mechanics. I could teach you every release in the book, but if I don't teach you when to use it, number one, I'm not a very good coach. Number two, you guys are never going to be able to use it because you won't know when to use it. So inside shade coverage, catch technique, you could probably use this even when he's like a little bit further off, and you really could attack his leverage with that push and with that reach. So this is a hesitation hop release. You punch with the back foot, reach with the front, gather, hit the crossover, and sell. That's a great way to threaten a DB's leverage. That's a textbook release there by Booker. Let's watch it again, full speed one more time. Great job punching. Great job throwing that cross. And again, like I said, fellas, could use that on just about any route. The tempo can differ. Okay, so now next example I want to talk about here is a move called a fake throw-by move. I think this is one of the moves that every wide receiver should have in their tool belt because I've honestly, when used correctly, I've never seen this move not work. Never have seen it not work. So pretty much what it is, the quarterback is going to be to the inside here, so to Booker's left, so it says left shoulder, and we got outside shade press coverage. So if you had to run, let's talk about like the situation, like I said, let's break it down IQ-wise. I'm going to play at full speed, then we'll break it down IQ-wise. So he comes up to the top of the break, fakes like he's slipping under him, and then is able to win on that like 5-yard in. You could use this on a 5-yard in. You use this on a 10-yard in. I personally only like it on an inside breaking route like an in or a 5-yard in. Now, let's think about what that was. So he got to the top of the break. He put the brakes on and acted like he was going to slip underneath this DB or this linebacker, and he threatens his blind spot, making it look like he's doing a throw-by out route. And all he does is just put the brakes on, cut off of this outside foot right here, and then breaks back to the inside. So he puts the brakes on and fakes to that blind spot. So let's talk about why that can work. Because when we come off the line, what coverage does he have here? He's got outside leverage. So the last two examples, we were talking about inside leverage. So now this one's outside leverage. He's outside shade and press. So what is he trying to prevent here? He's trying to prevent the outside route. So he does not want us to run a 5-yard out, a 10-yard out, a corner, maybe even a fade. He wants to prevent all of those things. He is just trying to force us to the inside because to the inside, he has some help there. So it's probably safety help in this specific scenario, linebacker help, whatever it might be. So if I have to run a 5-yard out, what the mistake a lot of guys will make is they'll try to attack this DB and square him up, give him a fake inside and force the outside. But when we do that, that DB is going to stay patient because remember, he's going to hold his leverage. I force the outside and my 5-yard out turns into a route just running right into the sideline. So what you would do is you would attack the inside shoulder of the DB. I attack him off the line, maybe attack his leverage a little bit, attack the inside shoulder. And then I got to make sure I'm selling fade. My goal is to get him to flip his hips, so when I put the brakes on, I could just slip underneath him and give my QB space to throw me open. So now, this is where the fake throw by comes into play. We're essentially faking that. But maybe a couple times you've used this before. That's the thing about playing the wide receiver position. You have to make yourself unpredictable. You have to do certain routes, certain releases, certain moves one time to set up something else where you might be getting the ball. You could do this and honestly not even get the ball. Your job might just be running the guy off the play and you work a move that could set something up later. So he puts the brakes on. He sells like he's slipping under by putting the hand on the back of his shoulder, and he just throws a jab step to something we call the blind spot. Some DBs, I've seen it. They'll full-fledged speed turn out of there. Most guys will just kind of hesitate like this guy does and slip, but you see the amount of space that can get us, especially over the middle. We kept spacing on the route, we kept timing on the route, and we got separation. That is the name of the game. So that is a great example there, this fake throw by move here from Booker Bush. Let's watch it again full speed. Great job threatening the blind spot and getting open on that route. Okay, so now, last example here of a slant route. And this is how you can run a slant versus inside shade press. So this is one of those awkward ones, right? This is one of those ones where it's like, okay, this is tough. I got to run a 3-step slant. I got inside shade press, or maybe even a little bit more than press. Like this is probably like catch technique where he's like 2 yards, maybe 1.5 yards off. So what a lot of guys will do is they'll do something called the diamond release. So they'll take 3 hard steps at the outside shoulder and outside hip of the DB. Goal is to get the DB to open up and run a fade, and we slip under. So again, it's very similar to how we were talking about that post versus off man inside shade. We got off man inside shade, like let's say he's here inside shade, wide receivers here, he's running a post route. You would attack that DB's outside shoulder and hip, try to get him to flip, and you slip under him. Same idea with this. So he comes off the ball, he gives this little, I'm going to play at full speed. He comes off the ball, gives a little hesitation, and throws a crossover move to get separation. So when I do this, and I hesitate and I throw a crossover, you see how he's stepping outside of the frame. You see how his shoulders and hips and his eyes, everything about this looks like he's going outside. This is what it takes, fellas, on your cuts to sell. So many times wide receivers, what they'll do is they'll operate like laterally. They'll never attack vertical. They'll never sell vertical, which is never going to move a disciplined DB. Guys will come off the line in this case, and they'll do all these steps this way, and their head and shoulders will lean. They'll do all this fancy movement. It's not going to get a guy to move. It's not, at least a disciplined guy. What's going to get a disciplined guy to move is stepping at almost a 45-degree angle, stepping outside of his frame, not outside of our frame. You want to bring your hip, bring your shoulders, and sell to the outside so you have some balance with this cut, and you could actually explode off of that cut to get out of the break. But fellas, that's what it takes to get open. That's what it takes against a disciplined guy who's watching your hips. You got to step outside his frame. You got to attack him vertical because that is what's going to move him. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Bush attacking the outside shoulder. Is this the only release you can use? Absolutely not. You could use a diamond release. Sometimes you could use a slide release if the tempo calls for it, but you have to always be attacking vertical. If you were going to do a diamond release, you would not do a diamond release flat. You would not take 3 hard steps to the sideline because even if that DB bit, you still have to get to here and he can recover. You would not do a slide release flat because even if we did a good crossover, got him to jump, you still got to get here and he's got an angle. You always want to be threatening vertical, whether it's a crossover, diamond release, hesitation hop like we went over, and that's exactly what Bush does here. Let's play this again, full speed one more time. Great job using that cross and getting that DB to flip. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, if you guys would like to train with us in 14 different cities we are coming out to this offseason, we already did our camp in San Francisco, California. We appreciate everybody who came out. If you guys would like to attend the next 14, check out that very first link in the description below. I'll see you guys next time.